Hello everybody and welcome to The Little Quilter. This is my first long arm quilting video that I am doing. I am quilting on my King Quilter 2 Elite. This is only the second quilt that I have actually done. So I did one other quilt from Natalia Bonner, and as you can see in the background, I do use Natalia Bonner's rulers for ruler work on my quilt. But I am also working on getting my free motion quilting up to speed as well. I have been quilting for several years, over 5 years that I have been quilting. I typically do my quilting prior to owning a long arm on a home sewing machine, and I was finally able to purchase a long arm sewing machine and went with the King Quilter just because of the affordability of it. I did not really have plans to make this into a business. It's more just I really enjoy quilting. I like to quilt large quilts. I know a lot of people like to quilt very small quilts and quilts that are not as, more lap size quilts, but for me, I like to do big quilts. So talking about the quilting that I'm actually doing, what I did here on this Pinehurst quilt from Adidas Sitar, and it is a quilt kit, which I will link below so that if you have an interest in purchasing this quilt, you can look at her website and get it from her. But I decided to do an all-over background between the trees so that it's kind of sitting behind the trees and pushing the trees to the forefront. And it's basically almost like a rainbow, so a little bump, semicircular bump in the middle, and then echoing that typically twice. I do use echoing of those rainbows to get around the quilt, and certainly as we get more narrow into the trees, because it is that V shape, I tend to end up doing just a lot more sort of curved lines to fill in that area and more just echoing. The Christmas trees themselves, which I will have another video out on whenever I get around to doing those. My plan is to actually do more straight line quilting on those, and I thought that that would marry really well with the sort of circular pattern that we have in the background and kind of give that nice texture and changing up the patterns there. The sashing border that I did actually has a diamond pattern across the whole sashing, and then within the diamond I just did straight line quilting. You could see that a little bit earlier in the video of where I had done that. I did not get a chance to film that because I kind of didn't even think about filming until I had gotten to the actual last row of the Christmas trees. So I'll let you guys watch a little bit more, and then actually later in the video I'm going to go to the border, and so the border design is a feather border design, and I will show you guys a little bit of that, okay? actually going to start working on the border of the quilt. The first thing that I'm going to do is go the entire length of the border and the quilt to go ahead and sit that down, stitching in the ditch all the way around. I find that stitching in the ditch, I just like the look of it, and I feel like it really sets my quilt and makes it where it's going to last a really long time. But the other thing that I like about it is that it really helps the fabric to sit down really nicely along those edges, so that as you're going along in your quilting, you have a really nice sort of fabric base to quilt along. So I am using a quilting roller to do this, and I believe this is the trailer quilting roller from Natalia Bonner. She has a lot of good quilting rollers that I would recommend checking out if you're new to quilting. They really seem to just fit really well into your hand. So I'm going to continue around here. The thread that I'm actually using is bottom line thread, and I am also using a Superior Threads 50 weight thread to do the top line quilting. I did have to use 3 different colors for the thread. I used a cream color for the background, a green color for the Christmas trees, and also a red color for the red Christmas trees that are actually within this quilt. I do have a plan to show you guys the Christmas tree quilting whenever I get to that. So here I'm just setting my stitches, and whenever I did my quilting for the border as I went along the quilt, I left space between the bottom of the quilt and the feathers so that I had a lot of wiggle room to be able to start and stop where I wanted, and to give the look that those feathers were cohesive and going through. Here I'm just doing a wavy line. There is no rhyme or reason to how high or how far in the middle or to the bottom that I go with this wavy line. It is something that you want to give enough room to be able to have a decent sized feather in there, but I did not find there to be any sort of reason to go a certain length. I just wanted to have a nice little wave to it that would give those feathers some dimension. So again, stopping and starting here and setting the stitches. You can see I did some embroidery on this quilt because this quilt is actually for a Secret Santa this coming Christmas, where we're actually going to be exchanging gifts for my husband's Christmas party, husband's family's Christmas party. There we go. So again, starting and stopping here, I am going to go ahead and quilt one side of this feather. I find it's easier to just focus on this, and I like to start where I finished with my feather. So some people might go ahead and quilt these feathers all the way to the end and then go backwards quilting those feathers, but I am not really good at quilting in that direction with those feathers. So these feathers too, what I did was some bump back feathers. They are not exactly all the same size. I was not looking for something to be all the same size. You know, I did want them to try and be a similar width, but I wasn't overly upset if they weren't exactly the same width. The good news about this is with this cream Superior Threads 50 weight thread is that it really blends in really well with the background, and because this border fabric is kind of intricate in the way that it looks, and there's a lot of, it's not just a plain background or plain white fabric, there is that pattern to it. It does help all of those sort of mishaps to kind of blend in nicely. I did go through, and as I got a really large feather, I would then go back the next feather that I would do. I did a smaller feather and would use those to kind of wrap around to fill in that space. It also, I thought, just helped to give a little bit more dimension to the feathers and to allow me to not have those really ungainly feathers, and also to keep me from getting these really large, oversized feathers that I just didn't think looked good. So now I'm going to go ahead and set my stitches and pull my bottom line thread up, and then cut my threads and move back to the beginning of that border where I had previously started quilting my feathers, and finish this line of feathers all the way back to that embroidery. I'll let you guys go ahead and watch this, and then we'll be finishing up the video. I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I hope that you take a little bit of inspiration from it and follow me on this quilting journey as I continue to work on my long arm quilting and improve my skills. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know. Otherwise, give me a thumbs up if you want to see more of this, and enjoy the rest of the video. Thanks, guys.